Hello, in this video I will be showing the bare basics of how to use Powerdirector version 21. I'll also be making references to DaVinci Resolve, on which I'm learning right now. But these feature references are limited to DaVinci Resolve as I've not been using it for very long, whereas Powerdirector I have been using it for 4 years. Resolve maybe for about 4 days, so it's not a fair comparison. Now Powerdirector 2024 has had some UI changes. In fact, it's quite a drastic UI change, but it's not a bad thing if you're coming to it from the first time, because you're going to get used to it quite quick. But I'm still going to show you in version 2021 because this is the one I'm used to, but the features are exactly the same other than the fact that you've actually got more features in 2024. This video is directed at someone who has a drone and we're bringing in footage to edit it at a very basic level. Then to get basically the video footage in, get it out as quick as possible, and that's really it. This doesn't mean that Powerdirector is limited to what I'm showing here, as it goes much more deeper. The reason why I'm also learning Resolve at the same time will be covered also in this video. The first thing we're going to be looking at is basically how to get around Powerdirector, so that we're actually familiar with the eyes, exactly where things are and why they're there. So at the bottom here, which is the main part of the editor, this is where you would be slicing and dicing. This is where you will also be composing your final video footage. You'll be given several tracks that you can work with, and they're all automatically divided up between video and audio. You can add as many tracks as you want, or you can just work with the limited amount that's already there by default. So down here is really the main area. Up here you'll see this ruler-like table here, and this is the actual timeline of your video in hours, minutes and seconds. This will give you an idea of how long each piece of footage is and how long your total piece of footage is when you've edited it and put it together. Just here, you'll notice here that you can see it says click and drop, or drop video images or audio here. This is basically the area in which you bring your footage into. This would be your GoPro or your video footage. This also includes any images that you want and any music that you want to bring in here. At the very top left of here, you'll see these 4 buttons here, and the one that's on by default is called All Media. This means that you're going to see all of your video, all of your images and all of your audio all at once in this area here. If you wanted to siphon it down to only seeing a particular type of image, you can use these other 3 buttons here. So this one will show video only, this one will show images only, and this one will show audio only. And again, back to here again, it shows you everything. So it can be quite helpful. When it comes to making your video footage, I highly recommend that you create a project folder somewhere on your computer, preferably on a separate hard drive that's not the same one that your Windows or your Mac operating system is installed onto. And within that project folder, I like to have separate subfolders, one for mic footage, drone footage, the controller footage, and the DJI footage. I basically like to keep things as separate as possible so that I can manage it better. I then actually drag and drop the folders in here rather than just the images, so that I can actually have access to the individual folders in here. Up here you've got a filtering in the way that you see things, so we can see things as a detailed view, or this one here as an icon view. Now this one here is your library menu. And basically it gives you the option to how large you see your icons inside here. So you can just mess with these and see what you like the best. To the right here at the top right, we see what is looking like a screen, and that is indeed what that is. So this is where you will actually see what's going on with your footage. You'll actually see your edits in here, how the transitions look, and how everything is synced up. So this area is basically your screen in which you're going to be looking at all the time to view your edits. When you first get into Powerdirector, there are a couple of things that you'll probably likely need to do, and that is within the settings. So if we go to the edit and go to preferences, then this is where you're going to see a lot of settings, but we're going to only go through some essential ones here, ones that I know that you're going to need to be setting up. So if you're in the UK, as an example, it will be a standard of 25 frames per second. That doesn't mean you have to stick to that, but you can choose different formats for different areas that you actually are going to be making footage for. This is your undo levels. This is how many times you can go back. That's not really something that I changed. Moving on to things that I definitely have changed. I've changed the transition type so that when we create a crossfade, which is a really easy way to do it in this particular program, it automatically chooses this particular type of transition for us. So this is a crossfade, the most basic one that you're ever going to need. These I'm not sure whether they were default or not because it's such a long time since I've used it, but I know this one here is something that I have had to turn on manually, and that is to reverse the timeline order. So basically for me, I like to work from the bottom up, so whatever's on top of each other within the timeline is the thing that's going to be out front in the video. So if I've got a text at the top, it means that it's going to be on top of whatever's underneath it, and it only makes sense to me to have it this way. The duration of the default duration of these image files that we bring in, you can set here. So this is for just still framed images. If you've got some still frame footage that you like to bring in, you can drag and drop it into there, and it will automatically set it to the desired amount of seconds that you've got in here. So that's something that you can alter if you want. The same thing for transitions as well. It's automatically going to be default into 2 seconds of a transition. So in the display, you can see here that the default timeline preview quality is set to HD. If your computer can handle it, you can put it up to Ultra HD, basically, which is 4K. But I find for my system, HD preview seems to be the best. So that's something that I've definitely got on. Hardware acceleration, I've enabled both of these, so it makes the use of my graphics card. And then when you've done this, you click on optimize, and it will optimize based upon your system. Then it will check it and make those optimized settings. Allow SRT files. I will explain a little bit more about what that is a little bit later on, but these are the kind of things that we really do need to have set up really. One of the great things about Powerdirector is the fact that it is built for users that are new to video editing. That being said, that it means that just because it's built this way and it's visually easy for people to learn, it doesn't mean that it has no depth, because it does. And this is quite a rarity when it comes to video editing. It's more along the lines of, if you want something more deep, it's got a more harder learning curve. And if you want something that's quite simple, it's got very basic options and can't let you go beyond the basics. When it comes to Powerdirector, it's somewhere in between the two. It gives you a very easy use layout. It gives you an easy way to access things, and it's in kind of a logical way in which you can access them. There is no multiple rooms to go into, but multiple areas of this software can pop up in a separate window so that you can deal with those dedicated functions. And I'll show you a little bit about that later on. If I was to compare Powerdirector 21 versus DaVinci Resolve, I would say that Powerdirector is significantly more easier to learn. In the first 4 days that I've used DaVinci Resolve, I've done this on the basis that I've already got knowledge of using such applications. So I'm not entirely new and fresh to what I'm seeing. When it comes to Powerdirector, I was able to pick up a lot more without referring to the manual or asking any questions on forums or looking at videos, because it just seemed more logically laid out. At least for me, it was. The first thing that you'll more likely want to do is create a title for your new video track. And this can be done in the left hand side here where it says T, title room. From this, you could be given loads of options of the type of titles that you can choose from. These are basically presets, and it takes the guesswork out for you. You can go through these and you can see that there's quite a lot of them, And at the moment you're seeing all of them. In the left hand side you can see that it's showing you all content, but you can actually trim this down by the filtering out only certain types of texts. So we can see here we've got downloaded ones, just general text items, we've got scrolling ones, romance, kids, sparkling. It really is made for the new user or someone who just wants to get on with editing and making a very quick intro to their video. You can, however, go a little bit further and actually make your own inside this program. I'm going to go for something really basic in this particular case, and I'm going to stick to just a basic one. Now the custom ones that you see here are the ones that I've altered from the presets in here. So that's just select a preset, I think, just to keep things simple. These are the general ones, and I'm going to just select that'll do. All you have to do is you just drag and drop onto your timeline and let go. Now it's in there. Now you can play it and you can see what it looks like. By clicking on these you can see a little preview over to the right hand side before you choose what you want. When you're happy with that, you can go down to the one you want and you can start to customize it, either by double clicking on it to open up the title editor, or if you want a more simple approach, just click in the little screen here where it shows you your title. Clicking on it once will highlight the area in which you can type in. I'm going to select everything, Control and A on the PC, and I'm going to type in Seeing the Beach. Just quite random here. And double click in here. And I'm going to type in July 2024. Just as an example. And now we can see that that's been updated. Now I want to bring my media in. This is my video footage or my images or my music. And to do this, we go back to the media room. So we go up to here, we've got the video room and we got the media room. And the media room is where your content will be. Now there's two ways you can bring your video footage in on your images and your music. And that is one, to click on here where you'll be open to dialog box and you can go and locate these, or you can go to your browser and you can simply just drag and drop what you want straight into here, which is what I'm going to do. As you can see, when it brings it in, it puts it in the order that they were made, and it's got little tiny green icon just down at the bottom there. And what that means is any shadow files that are going to be made, it means they're ready. Now because I've used this footage before, they're already ready in there, but for you, you'll see this move and animate to say that it's creating shadow files. Now all shadow files is a smaller version of your video footage, so that while you're editing you can be previewing at a lower resolution and it be dealing with smaller file sizes. It means it's going to be more smoother. But when it comes to producing your final video footage, it will use the original footage, the highest resolution footage for your video. So that's all this shadow file is. It's automatically done for you. The next step that you will want to do is bring your files in. But before we do this, we just need to make sure that just up here it says the library menu. We want to go to the sort by, and I like to have it sorted by name. This is because my drone footage is recorded in a sequence by name. Now it may not seem like the name means anything to me, but in fact the files are actually named DJI.0206, then there's 207, 208, 209, etc. And basically by having this format, it means that they're going to be brought into your application in the correct order that they were created in, which is what you want. So this is what I do. I will bring it in by name. So to bring a piece of footage in, all we have to do is just drag and drop it from there into the timeline. And you can see here that you've got this like outline of the length of the video footage and where it's going to be placed. While my left mouse button is held down, I just move it up against the footage that's already there, in which case it's actually the title, and let go. Now you can see in here that we've got both the title and we've actually got the beginning part of our footage, which is great. Now in a lot of applications, one of the things you're going to be doing either now or later on is add transitions, so that you don't necessarily get this harsh jump from one piece of imagery to the next. In some cases this is absolutely fine. In other cases you may want it to be a bit smoother, such as having a crossfade. Now the crossfade or a blur is the most simplest of transitions that you're likely to be using, and in this particular program you've got an option to do it with absolute ease. You don't have to drag any transitions at all onto your timeline. So this is going to be the first time I'm going to show you how we can zoom in onto here, and all we have to do is go up to here. You can see the icon changes and you just drag, and what it does is it actually brings us closer in or further away by moving it left and right. At the very bottom here we've got this bar, and it allows us to move along. I want to zoom in a little bit closer at the beginning, like that. In addition to that, you've actually got these controls down here which enables you to zoom in and out. You can do that as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a crossfade between my title and my first piece of footage. And to do this, all I have to do is just left click on the footage and drag it over the top of the previous footage, which is the title. And the more that you drag it over, the more of a transition it's going to create for us. This is a transition based upon what we've set in our settings. So this is a crossfade. When I let go, it's asking me what I want to do. You can either overwrite the particular part of the text image if you wanted to. You can insert it where it was. And in our particular case, we want to crossfade. So I'm going to click crossfade. Now that I've done this, when I play it back, it's going to smoothly crossfade between one and the other. If you want to, you can actually move this. Again, crossfade, and you've created a longer crossfade. If you move it further away, it's created a smaller crossfade. This is the setting that we found in the edit menu in preferences, and it's all about how things are in the editing page as far as what's the default type of cross transition type. I've set crossfade in here, but you've got a list of these type in here, were random and my favorites ones. I've had none of these. A crossfade is fine for me. One of the first things that you'll want to do when you bring in your footage is to edit its audio level. The reason why you would want to do this is because you will likely want to snip up your video footage into multiple clips, and it's best that all of your clips share the same kind of audio level. Now when it comes to drone footage, the drone doesn't actually have any audio, so that's not really a problem. But just to show you that when you do bring in audio, and I'm going to bring in an audio piece here, what will typically happen is you'll be given this bar through the middle, this blue bar, and by moving it up and down you can see you can adjust this audio level. When the edges turn yellow, it means you're clipping, it means you're distorting, so that's not a good thing. When you're bringing in video footage that has audio with it, it will look something like this, where the audio and the video footage will actually be linked together automatically. But in this particular case, the drone footage has no audio. If you do have a mic and you have separate audio footage, this is where you would bring it in. Moving to the main part of the video, how can we slice and dice up this footage, and how can we do our editing that we need? I'm only going to show you the bare basics. So first of all, we may want to choose a desired part of the clip that we want to start from, and we can do that either by selecting the beginning or the end and just trimming it up like that. You just simply do that. If you drag it back out again to the full length, the original footage will still be there. The other way is to move your playhead to a position where you want the footage to start, or your clip to start, let's say here. And again, if it's near the beginning, you can just move this. You can see the icon changes and it will turn blue when it gets to where the playhead was. Let go, and now it's trimmed. Another way is to go in there and select with your playhead again to where you want it clipped, and then just slice it where it is there. So to slice, you just press the Control and the T key, and now it's made a slice, and you've got two individual clips. See that? If you want to now, you can simply delete that clip if you don't need it. You press the delete key, and you're given some options here. Now, if you wanted to simply delete it and move nothing else in the file, you can simply just delete it like that. I'll show you what the other options do later on. This means that now you've got the beginning of the clip that you wanted to start on, and now you can move your playhead to where you want it to end. Typically, around about 10 seconds of footage is kind of ideal for keeping the attention of the viewer. You can move to about 15 seconds, but ideally 10 seconds would be more preferable. So you can just go in there and just at the beginning of your footage, you can see here just up there that you've got 10 seconds in there. So the way I did this is I went to the beginning of the footage and I clicked on this little tiny yellow icon there. It's very small. You see it changes with the icon, and I just dragged it out. And what this does is it will measure for you on the clip that you've got selected how much of a gap there is between the beginning and the end. So if you wanted to time it to be exactly 10 seconds, you can see up there, you could actually go up there and actually type it in if you wanted to. 10 seconds exactly. You could type in there 12 seconds if you wanted to. The next stage would be to cut it exactly where it is. So all you have to do is just use your cut tool. So you use the Control and the T key, and it's created a cut right at that point. To get rid of this, you just click anywhere in the timeline and it's gone. And now you've got a 10-second segment there. You can now move to the next segment, could be there, and do exactly the same thing. So I may want to slice it, Control and T. I'll move to the next segment. Again, Control and T, and delete anything in between that I don't want. Now, when I click delete, you can see this particular clip is in between the first clip and the second clip, and this is in between it. This is the time when you may want to use what's called ripple editing, and this is this bottom option here. What it will do is it will remove it when you delete it, and it will move everything from the right down next to the clip that it should be next to, so that you don't have to manually shift it. So let's do that. We click on remove, fill gap, and move all clips. And now we've got the first clip, and it goes straight into the second clip with that gap completely gone. You can now go there and choose what you want to do from that point onwards. So we've got this clip here, and may want to last a little bit shorter. I can easily go in there and trim it. Again, I want to trim and move all clips, and it's moved it down. I may want to trim this down a little bit shorter. Again, I can trim and move all clips. So now I've got two clips side by side, and now we can go and find the next segment that we want. So I'm going to choose to just move it over to there where it shows it's blue because it's quite near the beginning of that clip, and I'm going to move along to about there. And again, I'm just going to Control and T, and then I can just move this clip down. You can just keep on doing this until you get to your final clip in your image, or you want to use a clip from another source that you've already got. In this particular case, I'm done with this, so I press the delete key, and now I can go back to my imported images here and just move on to the next clip. So I'm going to bring this in and drag it close to the one that's already there, and I'm going to look for a new clip. So that will do. I'm going to just move it there because it's quite close to the beginning. Move it across so it just snaps up with the previous clip, and then we just move it to the next one. I think, okay, that will do for that. Control and T to snip it. And then you can just keep on editing like this. This is the simplest way to do it. I'm going to select the clip that I don't want after I've sliced it, delete, and move and fill gap and move all clips. And there we go. I want this last clip to be shorter. You just drag it down and it's shorter. Now I want all of these clips now to be at the beginning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select them all by just clicking outside the clips. You can see you've got this frame around them. And that's going to select them all. And now I can drag them all at once right to where the beginning is. Now remember, we wanted a crossfade in here, so we can still have that crossfade. I'll select this, I'm going to crossfade. That's great. These other clips haven't moved with it, so I'm going to just zoom out so I can see all these other clips. I'm going to select them and then just move them down like that. So now we've got something that represents a video. You may also want to bring in a WAV file with some music. Again, there's nothing to stop you doing that. You just bring it in. You can drag and drop wherever you want. In this particular case, you may want the levels higher or lower. If you want to make it so there's changes over time, you can do that as well inside Powerdirector, but I'm not going to be touching that at the moment. When you get to the end of your piece, you may want to have some kind of fade out, or you may want to use some transitions between your clips. So in this particular case, you just simply go up to the top left and you go to the transition room. And in here, you've got all your transitions available, your custom ones, and all the different types that are in here. And the ones that I tend to use more often is not these fancy ones, but if you go up to the top here, this drop down menu, you can see here you've got some options in there. I like to use just a basic blur or crossfade. But you can see there's actually quite a few in there. General is the one that I would use. I would use a fade, and you just simply drag and drop it between the two clips. You can drop it on the end of the last clip, on the beginning of the first, or in between the two, and that transition will be made. Play it back, and there it is. Then there's a fast cut to the next scene, and to the next scene, and maybe have another effect at the end, and we maybe want it to sort of like blur out or fade out to the end. So if you put this on the very end clip, it's going to fade out to black. And that's really it. There's a basic video starting with a title, we've got our clips in between there, and then we've got an ending. You can bring in music into there by dragging and dropping and doing the similar things. You can cut and slice exactly as you would the video so you match it up. Now if you have actually got your video footage that has audio and you're bringing in separate audio, you can actually use a feature in here which will automatically match and sync up your audio together if they're two separate pieces of footage. It might also be the case that you wanted to have your drone controller footage on top of the footage that you've got there. So this would be called a PIP, a PIP, and it's picture in picture. We can go back to our footage here, and this is where I would maybe have some drone footage in there. Let's see if we can find some. So this is the controller. So at the controller screen, I'm going to drag and drop it on top. Again, you would want to make sure that you sync this up with your video so that you're chopping this up with your video at the same time. So it's a good idea to bring in your controller footage before you start clipping things up, so that you can actually sync up your controller footage with the first clip that you bring in. And then what you can do is every time you do a slice and you want to slice and crop it, you just simply make sure that you just have them unselected, and when you do a slice you can do Control and T, and you can see that it slices through the whole lot. If you wanted to also keep them in sync so that they didn't move apart, you can actually select multiple objects with the Control key and right click and click on group clips. So that's another way to keep them together, but I don't like to do that. So with your footage that you've just brought in, I've just put it right over the top, and I'm going to slice this just for this particular demonstration. This is my footage where the drone starts to take off. I don't want to have this taken over the full entire screen. So what I do is I just select this, and you'll notice when I've selected this that you've got some handles inside your preview window. If you click on any corner, you can shrink this down to the size that you want, and you can move it anywhere that you want. And I'm going to move it down to the bottom right. If you use this little guide here, this is what's called a saved Windows guide, and it's basically there so that whenever you put something within here, it's guaranteed to be seen on whatever area or upload you upload it to, like YouTube, etc. There can be some times where there's some YouTube little things that pop up and they could be in the way. So this is kind of like a safe frame for you to put things within, like titles, and including this as well. So you can see here that we've got this pip in pip. It goes over the top, picture in picture. And again, you can go into the transitions and you can select the transition that you want. Select our transitions. There we go. And I'm going to add a transition at the beginning and one at the end. Just choosing something random here. So you can bring that in and you go out. There's no reason why you can't split this or use other segments that I've just drag and dropped into here. I'm just going to slide this up, Control and T, and you may want this footage in a different place. It's a separate clip. You can have a separate size, you can have it in a different location. You can see there. So we've got this one that's there, it's smaller. This one's that's bigger, it's up there. You can choose to do exactly what you want in this program. And of course, you can, if you wanted to, you could have it so only a few seconds of each show at one time. So as an example here, I'm going to bring it to the middle. You see this crosshair showing pink. It means that the video is bang on in the middle. And then I'm going to pull it back out to its original size. And there it is, right in the middle. So you may choose that you only want a few seconds of each. So what you do is you can just simply select this, slice it up, then maybe have another few seconds again and slice it, and then slice it again. And in between these slices here, you may want to use this opacity slider, which is built on the clip, and turn it down. Maybe turn it down here as well. So what this will do is it will show you a bit of each segment. So the one that's behind it. So we'll play that. It shows you that. Then it switches back to that footage. Then it switches back to the controller footage and then back again. So that's something that you can do. You can just slice it up without having to actually remove clips. Of course, if you wanted to, you can actually control click and remove this, leave the gap. But I just simply just leave it in there and just take in and out what I do and don't want. So I hope this video allows you to see a little bit of what's available inside Powerdirector. Of course, you can go much deeper than this. The last video that I'm going to be showing you is about getting the color correction the way you want it, and about using a default preset called LUTs, which enables you to get your cine footage up to a really good standard with just one drag and drop. The next thing that you'd probably want to do is do some color grading. So this is done quite simply, and you can select any clip that's suitable for you to get a good idea of how things look or how they don't look. So I'm going to just pick a clip that's got a variety of things in there, and I'm going to select that clip. I'm going to go to Fix and Enhance to this little button here. When you're in this little button, you've got all of these options to change for your color. Now, if you're bringing in some desyn footage, the chances are that you're likely going to want to use a LUT. And a LUT is a preset that's going to bring your image up to scratch of a really professional profile that's going to exceed of what can be done in Powerdirector. Now, when it comes to Powerdirector versus DaVinci Resolve, this is where DaVinci Resolve has significantly better color grading, because you could literally go in there and tailor it exactly the way you want without even applying a LUT. Now within Powerdirector you do have some adjustments, but it's more color adjustment than it is to actually creating your own LUTs, which you really want to do in another program like or DaVinci Resolve. So that said, that's first of all create a LUT, because this is actually desyn footage. So let's go and select our footage that we want, and I'm going to go to the FX. In FX you've got this color LUT, and when you start to import your color LUTs you'll actually see this new folder being created. By default you may have some color LUTs already there, but if you don't worry, you can simply download any color LUT and click on this little button up here, import presets, and it will import most color presets from all applications. So you can import them. That's what I've done right here, and you can see here that I'm using these color LUTs that have graciously been made by users to really bring things up to standard very quickly. All we have to do is drag and drop the LUT onto the folder, or the file shall I say, and then suddenly that image becomes like it should be. It would actually look decent, and without that color LUT it would look very, very flat. Once you've applied the color LUT, you can then move on to the next stage, and that would be to adjust how much of that color LUT is actually been applied. Now with the little tiny eye image there, you can click on this and select color LUT, and you can choose its strength in here. Now I've applied the color LUT to the controller footage, which is why you can't really see anything in here, but I just wanted to show you that's where it is. We can remove this. Now I'm going to apply it to the actual footage itself, which is there, and bam, you can see that the image is now full. It's full of color and contrast, and it could be where you just want to leave it at that point. But if you wanted to, you can go to the fix and enhance, and you can choose to enable any of these by checkboxing these and start to do any further enhancements in there. You can see I'm just doing that and increasing the saturation, which is increasing the color and how vibrant that color is. You can choose what you want to do. Now when you bring in a desyn file, the desyn file is going to be 10-bit. 10-bit means that you're going to have a lot more bandwidth, you could say, a lot more area in which you can actually push these colors and these limits, as opposed to the default standard, which is retained at 8-bit. So bringing in something at desyn, then applying a LUT to it like I just have, will actually give you more better image quality and outcome afterwards. So we've got that, and now what I want to do is I want to apply this to all of my clips that I've got in there. This is why you want to make sure that you want to complete all of your editing first and then move on to your color grading. So I'm going to click on apply to all, and now you see that all of them have this little tiny I button next to it to say that it's actually been affected. Okay, and that's really it. That's all we need to do. We can go through this and we can see now that everything is being color graded as it should be. Finally, we want to produce our video. So to do this, we click on produce at the top here, then it goes to the produce page, and then what we want to do is we want to select where we want our file to go to. It will tell us in that hard drive how much space is available, how much has been used, and how much is remaining of the actual produced file itself. So the file with these current settings is going to be 939.2 megabytes, and this is how much of that is produced, which is none. So what you can do is you can ask Powerdirector to just look at the image footage and decide for you what's the best for the image that or the settings that it's got built into the image footage. It would look at the original. So what you can do is you can click on Profile Analyzer, and then what it will do is it will look and see if it can find a good match. And it's saying that it's built up a profile for you which is 89.91% as close to the original footage that you brought in. So you can choose to use this and click OK. And now what it's done is it's actually created a profile for you for next time. Now if you wanted to edit that profile, you can actually click on the little tiny button here which says edit, and you can go in there and tweak some settings, such as in the video you may want to have this at 2K, so you can bring that down to 2K if you wanted to. You may want to change it from main to high. I would advise that. The bitrate you can obviously change in here as well. Now what I like to do is I like to personally select the H.264. This is a nice codec and it's very usable and it's widely used out there for other applications. So I like to use this and then maybe create my own profile in here. So I'll go something like a 4K, 25 frames per second in my particular case. I will select a high profile. The 8000 kilobits per second is kind of like the high end, so it's automatically selected that as a high end. You can go as low as 4500 or 5000 as a kind of like a starting point and work your way up, but you can go right up to 200,000 kilobits per second. There is a point of diminishing returns, and 80,000 is kind of the point where anything past that you're unlikely to see any better quality, but your file size will be significantly bigger. So 8000 is quite nice. You can bring it up or down. I found that this is 80,000, sorry, not 8,000. I found that even bringing it down to like 45,000, 40,000 actually produces quite a nice image quality. But if your image quality is showing some problems with the way that it's transitioning in color and stuff like that, then you may want to up this. So that's that. If you brought any audio in that you want to be of the highest quality, again you can select a higher kilobits per second, something like 192 would be quite nice. That's kind of like the happy medium, and then that's it. Now this is a profile that I made up myself. I've made up one for 4K, they're in here. We've got 2K versions in here, and we've got the experimental ones in there as well. Now once you've done this, you can now go on to the bottom part where it says fast video processing. It's going to use the latest technology for your graphic cards if you've got the right graphic card, and then it will process it even faster. It does support surround sound, AC 5.1 if your original footage has that, so that you can actually export that as well. Now there is SRT that's available to you. Now what SRT is basically a way to produce a video which has not been touched by any effects or any type of color grading. Now if you have produced a clip or a video without any effects and any color grading, what you can do is you can turn on this SRT mode. And what SRT mode or SVRT mode will do is it will process it extremely quickly. Very quickly it will process it. So it's handy to get your original footage if you wanted to degrade it down to say 4K, down to say 1080p, and not touch anything as far as color grading is concerned. It's a good way to bring that down for you. But in this particular case, I'm fine. Now it may be the case that you don't want to produce the whole entire video at this point, in which case you can move these markers. You can see here, and it will actually choose where it's going to create between the left and the right marker. So this is a good way to preview what it is that your settings are set to, and then you simply click on start and off it goes, and then it will go to your desired folder. When you've done this, you can go back to your previous screen. It will normally show up that you can go to previous or go back to edit mode afterwards. I'm going to go to the top here and click this arrow. The arrow will also be at the bottom when you finish this, and I want to go back. Now also just to mention that you could, if you wanted to, just select an area like that, and you can click on reduce range, and it will do the same thing. It will actually produce this particular range straight from here. If I click here, and it will set up the range automatically in here for you to export and try your settings. So that's something that you can do. Just remember to clear this range so that it uses the full range when you go to produce the full thing. So I hope you found this helpful, and keep in mind that this is the very basics of this program. You have actually got much more depth into your footage, your action footage. You've got, for instance, if you was to select a clip here, you've actually got action footage designer in here. Go into here, you've got magic cut. It will analyze video footage, and you can actually choose from here the criteria of scenes that are moving the most often. You can see here you can move these sliders, and it will actually automatically create some clips for you. So this is something that you may or may not want to do. I've not even used that myself, but I just wanted to show you that there's a lot more to this program than you may actually think. Like the motion tracker, it's got motion tracking built into it. It's also got an action cam built into it as well for action, like zooming in, slow motion, etc. Now, just quickly before I end this video, I just wanted to show you just one little tip when it comes to slow motion, because you probably want to have some slow motion clips, is if you just don't want to do it manually, you just press the control key and you just drag it out, and now it's created a slow motion clip. So when you play this back, it's going to play back slow motion. Okay, that's if you selected the this time thing here. Okay, now I've actually selected the clip that was to do with the controller again, so I'll do this with this. I want to speed it up, hold down the control key, I'll move it down so it's shorter, and now it's going to speed up really fast. You'll see when it gets into there. There we go, it's gone really fast. It may not be smooth in the preview, but it is actually speeding up. You can obviously go back to the original at any time you want and make it even faster, but you can also do your speeding up and slowing down in an entirely different screen to have more features than what I'm showing you here.